Nicolas Maduro has overseen Venezuela's worst economic disaster in recent times. 9 out of 10 people here can't afford enough food to eat. And yet he was re-elected by a landslide. Few signs point to anything getting better here. So how will he be able to run this country? To answer this, let's look back and see how he was elected. It's the day before the presidential election, and I'm here in a leaky basketball court in a neighborhood that voted heavily for Maduro in the last election. There's no stump speeches, no candidates, no flags for any party. But there are eggs and frozen chicken subsidized by the government. Maduro's campaign has been widely criticized for dangling food in front of the poor in exchange for votes.
Ese presidente sí que va pa'lante, agárralo, claro. Si no vas ahorita, yo no te puedo tomar en cuenta si tú necesitas un material, si necesitas un medicamento. ¿Acaso ya yo sé que si tú vas a votar, yo te pongo ahí, si ella nos dio nuestro voto? Mire, gobernador, fulanita no dio nuestro voto y tenemos que ayudar a esa persona porque no dio un voto igual.
Bridget is a Maduro party supporter and community leader in charge of food distribution for 100 or so families in the barrio. This isn't new. Handing out food and promising benefits have been popular get-out-the-vote tactics here since Hugo Chávez's time. What is new is the level of desperation. Maduro has turned this need into a not-so-subtle pitch. I give, and you give.
Eso es dando y dando. Yo estoy pensando en darle un premio al pueblo de Venezuela que salga a votar ese día con el carnet de la patria. Lo estoy pensando.
Now it's the morning of the election, and Maduro supporters are out in force. This neighborhood has been hit hard by the economic crisis, and you still have die-hard supporters of the president churning out the vote. For years now, they've benefited from this party's welfare system. Yasmin is a community leader. She's going around the barrio knocking on doors and making sure people vote for Maduro.
No vas a votar, si vas a votar. No sé, estoy indecisa. Está indecisa. De verdad estoy indecisa. O es mejor dicho, mejor diablo conocido que diablo por conocer, pienso yo.
Bueno, los culpables son la gente de los Estados Unidos, esa gente que tiene esa guerra con el país, pues con Venezuela.
Some here don't blame the president for their hunger. They blame the U.S.
Ah, pero ellos sí tienen de todo.
Others don't buy that line.
Y la gente pasando roncha. Eso es lo que no ven. He votado, ya no quiero votar más porque para mí estas elecciones son inconstitucionales.
But Maduro's critics don't have many other choices. He's already banned or jailed his most popular rivals. If anything, this election seemed to be about perfecting a system in which his party always wins. Not 50 yards away from the voting station is a punto rojo, or a red station, the color of Maduro's party. They're writing down the number of your benefit card, what's called the fatherland card, to make sure that you voted, and promising a special bonus if Maduro is re-elected. A hungry country should be a weakness, but in this election it was Maduro's strength because his government owns the food.
Hace falta un poquito la medicina, la comida, el agua a veces. Aquí de todo hace falta un poco, de todo un poquito.
Entonces, ¿tú apoyas a Henry Falcón o a otro o quién?
No, yo apoyo a Maduro.
A Maduro, de todos modos.
Is this how it's going to be from now on? Walking around the streets of Caracas, it feels like we've passed a crossroads, one where the president had everything going against him, and yet he still wins.
We'll go to Venezuela now, and where the government has introduced a new electronic identity card to assist with the country's cash crisis. The card can be used to buy food and other basic needs and should make shopping easier. Juan Carlos Lamas is in Caracas and sent us this report.
It's an electronic identity card. President Nicolas Maduro is calling the Homeland Card. It will regulate access to food and personal care products necessary for everyday use. A ration card for people who are already on government assistance. 50 million people will benefit from this social program. Venezuelans have been experiencing extreme shortages of food and medicine. Now it's also experiencing shortages of cash. Last month, President Nicolás Maduro announced he will pull the 100 Bolivar notes out of circulation to replace them with new higher denomination bills. But the new bills have slowly made their way to the public. The new ID card has a QR code that will allow people to make purchases electronically to avoid using cash. The opposition leaders has called this measure as social control. They also say the Venezuelans that will be using this ID card is just the proof that the government is worried the country is running out of cash.
The Venezuelan government recently rolled out a new version of a national ID card, the Carnet de la Patria, also known as the Fatherland card, used for everything from buying subsidized groceries to signing up for healthcare. But the card is now raising alarm bells. Reuters has learned that President Nicolás Maduro's government hired the controversial Chinese telecom giant ZTE last year to build a database linked to the card. According to contracts and internal government documents, as well as interviews with dozens of state and ZTE employees, Reuters found that Maduro's government isn't just using the cards to identify citizens, but also to monitor them by storing their personal information. Reuters correspondent Angus Berwick is in Caracas.
Last year, a team of anti-government hackers decided that they wanted to get a better look at what was inside the Fatherland database. That included income data, employment data, addresses, what sort of benefits a person was receiving from the state, whether they were participating in events held by the ruling Socialist Party.
To encourage the card's adoption, the government has granted cash prizes to cardholders for civic duties. So far, as many as 18 million people, over half the population of Venezuela, have already signed up for the card.
Since the government first introduced the card, it has begun to link it to more and more kind of basic services which people need to survive Venezuela's economic crisis. That includes food handouts, medicine, pensions.
Others worry about Chinese firm ZTE's involvement in developing the Fatherland database. ZTE has been slammed in the past by the United States for dealing with authoritarian governments. Now it has a growing presence in Venezuela.
The company's done business here in Venezuela for over a decade, and more the government is turning to ZTE. ZTE is also helping the government centralize video surveillance across the country.
The head of ZTE in Venezuela told Reuters the company has no role in how the government uses the cardholder data. Venezuela's government also did not respond to requests for comment.